The twin suns of Zarathus shone down on the grand arena, casting golden light over the polished stone floors. Thousands of alien spectators filled the high stands, their voices rising in an endless wave of noise. The arena was a place of pride for the Zarathian Empire, where warriors of many worlds came to prove their strength, their skill, and sometimes their honor. High above the arena, in a throne carved from crystal and steel, sat Princess Velara. She was young, clever, and proud, with eyes that sparkled like emerald fire. She loved the games not for the battles themselves, but for the spectacle, the chance to see warriors fail, rise, or fall before her people. Beside her sat nobles of the court, their robes glittering with jewels. Today, the princess's eyes fell on a single warrior who stood out for all the wrong reasons. Commander Elias Kane of Earth stood quietly near the gate of the arena. He wore a suit of human battle armor, thick, dull, and gray. It was not polished to shine like the armor of the Zarathians, nor glowing with advanced energy like the suits of the other alien warriors. It looked plain, almost primitive, and even a little heavy for his movements. The princess raised one eyebrow and let out a sharp laugh. "Look at that human," she said loudly, so her words carried across the court. "Is this their best champion? Wrapped in iron like a lumbering beast? Surely the armor is to hide his weakness." The crowd of aliens burst into laughter, their voices echoing around the arena. Some clapped, some hissed in amusement. They were used to seeing humans as latecomers in the galactic stage, fragile compared to other species. To them, Kane's appearance was a joke, but Kane himself did not react. He stood steady, his helmet hiding his face, his posture calm. He did not shout back at the princess or raise his weapon in anger. He simply waited, his hands resting on the hilt of his blade, his eyes fixed on the gate ahead where the first challenge would begin. The horns of the arena blared, and silence spread for a moment. A Zarathian announcer stepped forward, his long voice calling out, "Let the trials of strength begin. Warriors of all worlds, show us your worth." The gate before Kane and the other champions opened with a heavy clang. From it poured a rush of mechanical beasts, training constructs shaped like predators with glowing red eyes and steel claws. The first trial was one of agility and speed, to cut down the machines before they could overwhelm. The alien warriors charged forward with dazzling moves. A tall insectoid fighter leapt high, slicing through machines with 4 flashing arms. A scaled reptilian champion spun his plasma spear in wide arcs, tearing through the enemy with ease. Even the Zarathian knights in their gleaming armor moved with grace and practiced skill. And then there was Kane. He walked forward, slower than the others. His armor made his steps heavy, and his plain blade lacked the glow of energy weapons. The crowd began laughing again. "Too slow," shouted one noble. "He'll be crushed before he swings once," cried another. And Princess Velara, watching with amusement, whispered with a smile, "He hides behind steel because his flesh is weak." But Kane was not slow because he was clumsy. He was slow because he was careful. He watched the machines, studied their movements, and waited for the right moment. When one leapt at him with claws outstretched, he sidestepped and brought his blade down in a single precise strike, cutting the machine in half. Another came from behind. Without turning his head, Kane swung his blade backward, striking true. His movements were not fast, but they were exact, clean, and effective. While other warriors displayed spinning attacks and flourishes, Kane fought with discipline. Each strike was simple. Each strike was final. The crowd began to notice. The laughter lessened. Some even leaned forward, whispering to one another, "Did you see that?" He wasted no movement. Strange. His armor is heavy, yet he does not stumble. But Princess Velara would not admit even the smallest respect. She leaned back in her crystal throne and spoke loudly, "Do not be fooled. He is lucky. Machines are simple foes. Let us see how long he lasts when true strength is tested." Below, the first trial ended. The machines lay scattered, broken into piles of sparking parts. Many warriors were panting, their weapons glowing hot from overuse. Kane, however, stood straight. His armor bore scratches, but he did not seem tired. The announcer's voice rang again. "The first trial is complete. Prepare for the test of skill." The second gate opened, and this time flying drones filled the arena, their wings buzzing like thunder. They shot small bolts of energy, fast and sharp. The warriors had to dodge, leap, and strike before being struck themselves. The insectoid champion moved fast again, slashing at the drones with speed, but one bolt hit his side. and he shrieked in pain before falling. The reptilian fighter roared, swinging his spear wildly, but the drones were too quick, darting in and out. Kane stood calmly as the first drone fired at him. He raised his arm, letting the energy bolt strike his armor with a flash. His suit absorbed the hit. He took another step, swinging once, and a drone fell. Another bolt struck him, and again the armor took it. The princess laughed once more. He lets them strike him. Foolish human. But others noticed again. Kane was using his armor differently. While the other warriors wasted energy trying to dodge every shot, Kane let his armor take the hits. He advanced slowly, step by step, and with each step a drone fell to his blade. He did not rush. He did not stumble. He simply endured, knowing his armor was strong enough to handle the punishment. One by one, the drones fell until only silence remained. Kane lowered his blade and stood still. The crowd this time did not laugh. Instead, there was a murmur of voices, low and uneasy. They had expected him to fail. Instead, he had endured. Princess Velara, however, refused to admit anything. She leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "He survives because of that clumsy shell," she said. "Strip him of it and he is nothing." Kane did not answer. He simply stood, his calm presence stronger than words. The trials would continue and the arena would see more of him yet. But already a seed had been planted in the minds of the spectators. Humans, they thought, might be more than they appeared. And though the princess laughed, deep inside a small spark of curiosity stirred. The morning light of Zarathus fell over the arena once again. The air was alive with sound. Cheers, drums, and the buzzing voices of countless alien spectators waiting for the second day of trials. The stone walls of the arena glowed faintly under the twin suns, carrying the weight of centuries of combat and history. Commander Elias Kane stood among the other warriors, calm as ever. His armor was scratched from the first trials, yet it still stood firm, plain and unshining. Where others polished their suits or replaced damaged parts with gleaming upgrades, Kane only checked the locks of his helmet and the edge of his blade. His preparation was quiet, methodical, and without show. Above, Princess Velara sat on her throne of crystal and steel, her emerald eyes fixed on him. She had spent the night hearing whispers from the nobles of the court. Many of them had been surprised at Kane's performance the day before. They had expected failure, yet the human had survived not with dazzling technology but with patience, timing, and calm strength. The princess, however, would not accept such a thought. Her pride would not allow her to believe a human could be remarkable. She whispered to the court around her, her voice sharp. "He hides behind his armor. That is all. Without it, he is weak. You will see." The announcer stepped forward, his long staff glowing with the symbols of the Empire. His voice, deep and commanding, echoed across the arena. "Warriors of many worlds, you have passed the first trials. Now begins the trial of strength. Only those with true power and discipline will endure. You will face beasts of the wild, born in the deep jungles of Zarathus itself." The crowd roared with excitement. Zarathian beasts were legendary across the stars. Giant creatures with claws that could crush steel and jaws strong enough to tear apart armor. Many warriors feared them more than any machine or drone. The massive gates of the arena groaned open. From the shadows emerged a thunderous growl that made even the bravest spectators hold their breath. Out stepped a beast with scales like dark stone, eyes burning red, and a body that moved with heavy power. Its tail whipped behind it, carving deep scars in the sand. The announcer lifted his staff.
"Face the Ravager of the Depths!"
Some warriors shouted their battle cries and charged forward, their weapons glowing bright. A reptilian fighter spun his plasma spear and leapt with fury. A tall insectoid darted across the sand with impossible speed. Zarathian knights moved in formation, their shields locking together as their energy blades lit the air. Kane, as always, did not rush. He walked steadily toward the beast, his heavy steps leaving clear prints in the sand. The princess scoffed, her voice cutting through the air. "Look at him. He moves like a lumbering ox. That monster will crush him before he lifts his blade." The crowd laughed again, encouraged by her words. But Kane ignored them. His helmet faced forward, his hands steady. He had seen beasts before, not of Zarathus but of Earth. Tigers in the wild jungles, lions in the deserts, bears in the frozen mountains. He understood that beasts did not fight with rules or honor. They fought with instinct. To win, one needed patience. The reptilian champion was the first to strike. He drove his plasma spear into the beast's side, but the Ravager's scales deflected the blow. With a roar, the creature swung its tail, smashing the reptilian aside. His spear shattered, and he fell, unconscious before he hit the ground. The insectoid warrior leapt high, slashing down with 4 sharp blades. But the Ravager snapped its jaws upward, catching one arm. The insectoid screamed, dropping its weapons, and scrambled away in defeat. The Zarathian knights pressed forward as one, their shields glowing. They tried to hold the beast back with careful steps, but the Ravager lunged with terrifying speed, breaking their formation. One knight fell, then another. Their shields shattered like glass. Through all this, Cain watched. He moved closer but did not strike. He let the others test the beast, learn its movements, and fall before its power. Only when the Ravager turned toward him did he raise his blade. The creature roared, its hot breath washing over him. It charged, claws outstretched. The crowd leaned forward, expecting Cain to stumble, to fall, to fail. Instead, Cain stepped aside at the last moment. The Ravager's claws tore into the ground, spraying sand into the air. Before the beast could rise, Cain swung once, his blade biting between the scales at the joint of its leg. The cut was not deep, but it was enough. The Ravager stumbled. The princess frowned. "A lucky strike," she said quickly, though her eyes followed Cain more closely now. The Ravager roared in fury, spinning with its tail. Cain raised his armored arm, taking the blow across his side. The impact shook him, but he did not fall. The crowd gasped. Most warriors would have been crushed. Cain dug his boots into the sand, steadying himself, and struck again at the weakened joint. Step by step, he wore the beast down. He did not rush. He did not chase glory. He fought with patience, using each movement to bring the creature closer to defeat. Finally, with one last roar, the Ravager collapsed onto the sand. Its legs trembled, then gave way, and the mighty beast lay still. The arena was silent for a moment. The crowd, which had mocked him before, now stared in disbelief. Cain lowered his blade, his chest rising and falling calmly. Then the silence broke into thunderous cheers. Many of the aliens stood clapping and shouting his name. They had seen not only strength but discipline. Princess Velara, however, did not cheer. She sat back, her jaw tight. Her voice, cold as steel, cut through the celebration. He defeated the beast only because of that heavy shell. Strip it from him and he would be crushed like any other. Some nobles nodded, eager to agree with her. Others were less certain. They whispered among themselves, glancing at Cain with new respect. The announcer raised his staff once more. "The Ravager falls, but the trial is not yet finished. One more test awaits, Duel of Warriors." The gates opened again and outstepped a towering alien knight. His armor glowed with golden light, etched with symbols of honor. He carried a massive blade humming with energy, far larger than Cain's plain steel weapon. The announcer declared, "Commander Elias Cain of Earth shall face the champion of the Zarathian Guard." The crowd roared again. They had seen Cain fight beasts and machines, but now he would face a warrior trained in the art of combat, armed with the finest technology. The princess leaned forward, her lips curving into a sharp smile. "Yes," she whispered, "now we shall see. Without his armor, he would be nothing. Even with it, he cannot hope to match the guard." Cain stepped into the center of the arena, his eyes on the knight. He lifted his blade, steady and silent. The knight answered with a bow, then raised his energy weapon, its light blazing like fire. The duel of strength was about to begin. The crowd had not yet stopped cheering from the fall of the Ravager, when the golden-armored knight stepped into the arena. His armor shone like the suns themselves, glowing with carved symbols of strength and honor. His weapon, a massive blade powered with energy, hummed as if alive. He was taller than Cain, broader in the shoulders, and every movement of his body carried the weight of years of training. He was Sir Draxion, personal guard of Princess Velara. Unlike the other knights of Zarathus, Draxion was known for his unbroken record in the arena. No challenger had ever defeated him, not even those from the strongest species of the Empire. His reputation was unmatched, and many whispered that even the beasts of Zarathus would flee before him. The announcer's voice carried high above the arena. "Behold, the champion of the Zarathian Guard. Sir Draxion shall duel the human commander." The crowd erupted in excitement. Many had come only to see Draxion fight, and now they would witness him face the strange human who had survived longer than expected. Whispers filled the air. Surely this will end the human's run. No armor can save him now. Sir Draxion will crush him. Princess Velara leaned forward on her throne, her green eyes sparkling with a mixture of pride and expectation. This was her chance to silence the whispers that had grown since Kane's earlier victories. The nobles had begun to murmur about the humans' calm strength, and it irritated her. She wanted the arena to remember that Zerathians, not humans, were the true rulers of battle. She raised her hand and spoke clearly, so the entire court could hear. "Commander Kane of Earth, you have walked further than expected. But your time ends here. My guard will show the truth that your victories were born of luck and heavy armor. Nothing more." The crowd cheered at her words, though some glanced at Kane with quiet respect. Kane did not reply. He stood in the sand, his plain blade in hand, his armor scratched but still firm. His silence was not weakness, it was his way. He had no need to waste words. The horn sounded and the duel began. Draxion charged forward with a roar, his golden blade swinging down with the force of thunder. Sparks flew as it struck Kane's raised sword. The impact sent a shockwave through the arena, and the ground cracked beneath their feet. The crowd gasped. Many thought Kane would be crushed by the very first strike. Yet the human did not fall. He slid back a step, his boots digging into the sand, but his stance held. Draxion pressed forward, his blade swinging in wide arcs, each blow heavy enough to break stone. Kane parried each one, not with equal strength, but with careful timing. He met the blade at just the right angle, turning its force aside rather than resisting it directly. Still, each strike rattled his armor and sent vibrations through his arms. His suit dented under the heavy blows, scorch marks spreading across its surface. The crowd cheered louder for Draxion with every spark. Princess Velara laughed softly. "See, he is being crushed. His armor cannot protect him forever." But some of the nobles were less sure. They watched Kane's eyes sharp and focused through the visor of his helmet. He was not panicking. He was not desperate. He was studying his opponent. Minutes passed, the duel raging. Draxion grew louder, his movements fierce, his blade shining brighter. He fought with pride, eager to display his strength before the princess. But in his eagerness, he began to overreach. His swings grew wider, his strikes heavier but slower. Kane saw it. The human sidestepped at the exact moment Draxion's blade crashed down, leaving the knight slightly unbalanced. Kane's sword darted forward, striking the golden armor at the joint of the arm. Sparks flew, and though the blow did not pierce, Draxion staggered. The crowd gasped. The human had struck. Draxion roared, furious. He spun and slashed again, forcing Kane back. The duel became faster, louder. The two warriors locked in a storm of sparks and steel. Once more, Draxion raised his blade for a crushing strike. This time, Kane rolled aside, his heavy armor scraping against the sand. He rose quickly, driving his sword against the knight's side. The blade bit deep into the golden armor, leaving a dark scar. The arena erupted with shouts. Half cheered for Draxion, half now cried out in awe of Kane. The princess's smile faded. She leaned forward, her fingers tightening on the arms of her throne. "Impossible," she whispered, though her voice was sharp with disbelief. The duel continued, both fighters slowing as the minutes dragged on. Kane's armor was battered, cracked in places. His breathing grew heavier, but his eyes never wavered. Draxion's armor bore scars where Kane's strikes had landed, and though his weapon still shone bright, his movements had lost their earlier sharpness. At last, Draxion lunged forward with a mighty thrust, aiming to end the fight. Kane twisted aside, his armor scraping against the knight's blade, sparks bursting into the air. Then with a swift strike, Kane knocked the weapon from Draxion's grip. The golden blade fell to the sand with a heavy clang. The arena went silent. Draxion froze, staring at the human before him. Kane raised his own sword to the knight's chest, stopping just short of the final blow. He had won. The silence broke into chaos. Some shouted in shock, others in awe, and many could not believe what they had seen. The undefeated knight, the pride of the Zerathian guard, had been disarmed by a human. Kane lowered his blade, stepping back with calm respect. He did not raise his arms in victory. He did not shout. He simply stood tall, steady, and silent. Draxion bowed his head, acknowledging defeat. It was a gesture of honor, rare in the arena. The announcer raised his staff, his voice booming. "The duel is complete. The human commander has triumphed." The stands erupted into noise. The crowd was split between those who cheered and those who still mocked. But even the mockery now carried doubt. The human had proven himself against machines, beasts, and now a knight. Princess Velara rose from her throne, her face unreadable. She looked down at Cain with narrowed eyes. For the first time she did not laugh. "You survive again," she said, her voice cold. "But do not believe this victory proves anything. Without your clumsy armor you would have been crushed long ago." The nobles listened, some nodding, but others whispered among themselves. They had seen what she refused to admit. Cain's strength was not in his armor, but in his discipline and courage. Still, the princess would not allow the whispers to grow. She turned to her guard and declared, "The next trial shall be of my choosing. Let us see what the human is without his shell." The court gasped at her boldness. The crowd murmured, eager for more. The announcer bowed and agreed, for no one could deny the will of the princess. Cain stood silently as her words echoed across the arena. He did not show fear. He did not even shift his stance. He only waited. The princess smiled once more, though it was a sharp and dangerous smile. "The next trial," she said, her voice like steel, "will reveal the truth." The arena was silent as the princess's decree hung in the air. The next trial would reveal the truth, she said, and every eye turned to Commander Elias Cain. Even the crowd, which had cheered and jeered in equal measure, now held its breath. This trial was different. It was not machines, beasts, or even a powerful knight. It was a test of courage, discipline, and the very essence of the warrior. Princess Velara watched with sharp eyes. Her emerald gaze followed every movement of Cain as he stood tall, scratched and dented armor covering his body. The armor that had carried him through the previous trials now seemed almost too heavy. The princess's smirk, sharp and confident moments ago, softened only slightly as she leaned forward. For the first time she wondered, what strength did this human truly possess? Cain remained silent. He had faced beasts, machines, and warriors stronger and faster than most humans could dream of. Yet he knew that his final test was not about brute force. It was about revealing the truth of who he was. Slowly, deliberately, Cain moved to the center of the arena. He touched the clasps of his armor one by one. The crowd murmured. What was he doing? Some whispered that perhaps he had a hidden weapon or secret device under the armor. Others leaned forward in curiosity, eager to see what a human might have hidden all along. The princess's voice cut through the whispers. "Commander Cain," she said clearly, her tone sharper than before. "If you are as formidable as you seem, remove your armor now. Let the court see if your strength is born from your body, not from steel." Cain paused, his eyes meeting hers through the visor. The arena held its breath. Slowly he began to unfasten the metal clasps piece by piece. The helmet came off first, revealing a face that was not youthful but hardened and disciplined. Scars marked his cheeks and forehead, evidence of battles fought long before he arrived on Zarathus. His hair was dark and kept short, practical for combat. His green eyes, steady and bright, scanned the arena without fear. The crowd gasped. Many could not believe the human standing before them was the same one who had moved through the trials with such apparent ease. The princess's smirk faltered for a moment. She leaned forward, her hands gripping the arms of her throne. "Is that human?" she whispered, almost to herself. Cain continued, removing the chestplate, shoulder guards, and gauntlets. His body, while not as large as the alien champion's, was lean and muscular. His arms and torso showed strength forged by years of physical training, endurance, and experience in real combat, not machines or energy weapons. Every movement was purposeful, controlled, and confident. The crowd could no longer jeer. The laughter had vanished, replaced by a mixture of awe and disbelief. They saw a human who had survived trials that crushed the best of the Zarathian warriors. Not because of glowing weapons, not because of advanced armor, but because of skill, timing, and human endurance. Princess Velara's voice broke the silence, though it was softer now, tinged with curiosity rather than scorn. You did all this without armor?" Cain nodded slightly, silent except for the quiet sound of his armor hitting the sand as he set each piece aside. His movements were deliberate, not for show, but to demonstrate the simple truth: he was a warrior, not a machine. The arena erupted into whispers and gasps. Many nobles stood, their eyes wide. Some of the Zarathian champions looked at each other in disbelief. How had one human survived trials that had destroyed the mightiest among them? Cain lowered his blade, now plain steel in his hands, and stepped forward. The sunlight reflected off his sweat-streaked skin and scars. He did not raise his weapon in challenge. He did not shout or demand attention. He only stood, a living testament to the strength and courage of his species. Princess Velara remained on her throne, silent. For the first time, she could not find words of mockery. She had expected weakness, frailty, and perhaps some trick hidden under the armor. Instead, she saw raw human skill and determination, qualities she had not anticipated. "You fought all those beasts, machines, and warriors," she whispered.
"With only yourself." Cain nodded once.
"I have no other weapons, no other shield. Only discipline, patience, and courage." A murmur ran through the crowd. The humans, thought weak and fragile, had proven that they could endure what others could not. That armor had not made Cain strong. He had made himself strong. Even Draxion, the golden-armored knight, approached him and bowed with respect. "You are remarkable," the knight said simply. "Not because of armor, but because of yourself." Cain inclined his head, silent, acknowledging the respect but not seeking it. The princess finally spoke again, her tone quieter, more reflective. "I underestimated humans," she said. Her voice, once filled with mockery, was now filled with something like respect. "Perhaps we judged you by appearances and expected weakness." Cain said nothing. His eyes met hers, steady and unwavering. In that moment, the princess realized that the human had done something more than win trials. He had challenged the arrogance of an empire, the pride of a princess, and the assumptions of every warrior in the arena, and he had done it without a single word of complaint. The announcer raised his staff, voice booming across the arena. "The final truth is revealed. The human commander stands without armor, yet undefeated. Let this day mark the courage and strength of humanity." The crowd erupted, this time with genuine awe. They had seen something extraordinary. A human who could survive impossible odds, not through technology or machines, but through skill, courage, and the indomitable human spirit. Princess Velara, silent for a moment, finally leaned back on her throne. Her pride had not been broken, but it had been challenged. She had laughed at Cain, mocked his armor, and expected weakness, but now she saw truth. Humans were more than fragile flesh. Humans could endure, adapt, and triumph in ways even the most advanced Zerathians could not predict. The princess's eyes, once full of scorn, now held curiosity. She realized that humans carried strength not measured in weapons or armor, but in courage, resilience, and ingenuity. Cain turned, bowing slightly to the crowd. The message was clear. Appearances could deceive, but true strength came from within. The arena erupted again, this time not in mockery, but in applause and cheers. Aliens of every species whispered to each other. Humans were remarkable. Humans were not weak. Humans could endure, and Princess Velara, once mocking, now watched with a new understanding, her emerald eyes thoughtful and her pride tempered by respect. The echoes of the arena's cheers filled the high stands and distant streets of Zarathus. Commander Elias Cain stood in the center, his plain steel sword at his side, the scars of the trials etched across his body. The armor that had once concealed him lay in pieces behind him, silent witnesses to his victories. The audience could not believe what they had witnessed. The princess rose from her throne, stepping forward with a grace that silenced the remaining whispers. For the first time, she approached the human not as a mocking observer, but as someone genuinely curious. "You have proven yourself," she said, her voice steady, calm, yet filled with a kind of wonder. "I thought humans were weak, that your victories were luck or trickery, but you are unlike anything we imagined." Cain bowed respectfully, silent. His actions, not his words, had earned the respect of the court. He did not need to speak to prove himself. The Emperor of Zarathus, who had watched from his grand throne beside his daughter, rose with a smile. His voice carried across the arena. "Let it be known that humanity has earned the respect of the Zerathian Empire. This human commander has proven that courage, skill, and determination are qualities not measured by size, species, or armor. Let this day mark the recognition of human strength and honor." The crowd erupted into thunderous applause. Even those who had doubted Cain now stood in acknowledgement of his extraordinary feats. He had survived trials that crushed the mightiest warriors, defeated beasts, bested machines, and even humbled the golden-armored knight, all without reliance on technology beyond what a human could carry. Princess Velara approached him, stopping a few feet away. Her emerald eyes studied him carefully. She had once mocked him, confident that his victories were illusions. But now she saw clearly. The human strength was not in armor or energy weapons. It was in heart, mind, and spirit. You are remarkable, she said quietly, almost to herself. I misjudged you, perhaps. All humans are stronger than we believed. Cain inclined his head, acknowledging her words. He did not boast, did not seek praise. He had fought for honor, for discipline, and for the truth of his people. The princess smiled faintly, a gesture of genuine respect. Perhaps humans are a species we should study, learn from. You have taught me something today, Commander Cain. Strength is not always what it appears to be. The Emperor nodded, his voice carrying finality and approval. Let this victory be remembered. Humanity stands as a worthy ally, not only for its courage but for the spirit it brings to the galaxy. Commander Cain, you have shown us that the heart of a warrior can surpass the might of any machine or armor. The arena erupted once again. Aliens of all species rose, clapping, cheering, and shouting in admiration. Cain stood silent but proud, understanding that he had not only won the trials but had also reshaped perceptions. The princess, once mocking and scornful, now walked beside him as they left the arena. She no longer saw him as a fragile human. She saw someone extraordinary.